I'm really honored to be here today as the Chief of Staff at SAMHSA, but more importantly, as a person in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I haven't used alcohol or drugs since May 15th of 2003. So this has been a long journey for me and a great honor to work on this report. In the previous panel on treatment, we heard what treatment's all about. Let's start today by trying to differentiate a little bit between treatment and recovery. Keith, could you talk a little bit about the difference?
Sure, Tom. The happiest number in this report is that 1 in 10 American adults, when asked, have you had a substance use problem in the past and it's now resolved, 1 in 10 say yes. In other words, 25 million people are in recovery. Then that's what we want for everyone. They are happier, they are healthier, they have better relationships, they're more likely to have a job, they participate in their community. Now, how does treatment relate to that? Well, a lot of those folks did go through treatment, a whole range of them. Everything, methadone maintenance, psychotherapy, inpatient programs, everything you see out there has benefited at least some of that population. But it's also true that a number of them didn't go through treatment. There are many pathways to recovery. There is no one right pathway to it. As long as you get to heaven, who cares how you get there?
Great way to look at it. You mentioned 12-step programs. Did 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous really work? I know you've done a lot of research. A big body of your research is about this. Can you tell our audience today what you've found?
Sure. So when I started my career in the late Jurassic period, people like me, scientists, we didn't really think they worked. You know, there wasn't a lot of evidence, and it seemed, you know, they don't even have degrees. You know, how could this work? But you know, science isn't there to comfort our prejudices. It's to teach us things that we didn't know. And you know, a lot of research done not just by me, but funded by National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, Dr. Koob's Institute, has been done on the 12-step programs, and they do work. I mean, there's very strong evidence for Alcoholics Anonymous working. Very good for CA and AA. So, you know, you're as likely to do well in those programs as you are if you go to see someone like me who treats on an outpatient basis. Now, does that mean they work for every single person? No. But nothing works for every single person. There's a lot of diversity among people who have addictions. As I said, there's many, many pathways to recovery. It's great that we're blessed that we've got this powerful pathway that helps so many people.
Thank you, Keith. And as you know, you mentioned, and as the Surgeon General mentioned today, and Kana Enomoto, the SAMHSA Principal Deputy, recovery is possible for everyone. And there's nearly 25 million Americans in recovery. But for some people, they experience a reoccurrence of symptoms, or what we frequently hear called relapse. Tony, what additional supports do people need in order to sustain long-term recovery?
Tom,
prevent that reoccurrence of symptoms.
Well, that's actually a great question. And the reason why is because it implies that recovery is not just about abstinence, all right? So you know, things that would support long-term recovery, I believe, creating cultures that support recovery, because recovery happens in the communities, right? So, you know, creating opportunities for individuals to love, live, work, and play, you know, in the community, a place based on self-determination. So, you know, I'm talking about, you know, a continuity of care and connection. Like, so for me as an individual, when I got into recovery, I didn't know how to go to work. You know, I had just came home from prison, right? So peer support is a great way to support recovery. In Georgia, we have forensic peers, and those are individuals who have specialized training and have experience with the criminal justice system, and they help individuals coming home from prison to navigate the system and to be included in a community of their choice, you know, so that they can.
If you can't navigate those things, you can't stay in recovery.
Well, it's a lot more difficult because, you know, so because of my recovery, right? Today I have, you know, I'm a homeowner, I'm a taxpayer, I vote. You know, it's way more than just not using drugs.
Makes total sense. Is it covered in the report, Keith?
Yeah, it is. We have a big section on recovery support services, which address all these types of things. You know, I really love the talk that Nora and George gave about the enduring changes in the brain. There's also enduring changes in other parts of life, too. You need new friends. Sometimes you need a new job. You need to change a lot of relationships. And recovery support services, which are generally designed and run by people in recovery who know what it's all about, address those things, all those other parts of life. They're so important to have a healthy, happy, and productive life.
Thank you, Keith. Donna, you're the former board chair at Faces and Voices of Recovery, and you work for Optum Healthcare, who's done a lot of work with peers. How effective are recovery services that are delivered by peers?
So as Keith talked about, there is some information in the report on recovery support services. And I think anecdotally, we have a lot of information out there that the lived experience of one person helping another is just, really supports individuals. At Optum, some of the work that we do is infuse peer support services throughout our network. And we have done research internally that shows that there's definitely a benefit to that. So a peer supporting another peer will keep them out of the hospital, will keep them out of treatment, will be able to help, as Tony was talking about, if someone relapses or has a recurrence of symptoms, that peer can help support the person with early intervention so that they don't have to go through the system again and again and again.
So not only effective, but it saves money.
Absolutely.
And that's what you found.
That's what we found.
Great.
Yes.
Keith, is it effective? What does the science tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are countless people who make great contributions to helping people with addiction who have no personal experience themselves. It's not that you have to have it. However, for a lot of people, it's that moment when they connect with a peer, someone else who says, I've been right where you are, and I'm doing a lot better now, and I can help you learn the way. For a lot of people, that's a turning point. That's what they're looking for. And it's been done in healthcare systems. It's done outside in the mutual help arena. And in general, the outcomes are very good. And not just, by the way, for addiction, but if you look at conditions that are very common among folks with addictions, depression, also really good findings, bereavement, grief, improvement in relationships. I mean, peers can be just absolutely critical.
Yeah, it was critical for me, I know, when I joined a recovery community organization back in Rhode Island in my early recovery and got to be with people who were going through exactly what I was going through or had been through it. It meant a whole great deal to me. Let's talk a little bit. Oh, Donna, do you want to add in?
I just wanted to say, and what that peer does is offer us hope. So hope that we can get better just like the person right in front of us.
That's what recovery is all about, right?
That's what
Hope.
it is.
It's hope.
That's right. We should move from a crisis-driven system to more of a recovery system. An individual doesn't have to be in crisis in order to get help. It shouldn't be that way. And there should be, if we talk about many different pathways, there should be opportunities across the spectrum for individuals to connect.
I think we've heard a little bit today about how this opioid crisis in our country is affecting young people, and we saw some parents on the stage today, give some really heartbreaking testimony. We're also seeing an explosion in youth recovery programs in this country as a result, I think, of what young people are experiencing. So Stacey Mathewson was going to join us on this panel, but had an emergency and she had to leave. But talk a little bit about what's happening in the youth recovery space, recovery high schools, recovery collegiate programs. Who'd like to take that one?
Well, I want to applaud. I'll talk about what we have in the report on that, and I applaud Stacey for the work she's done to support those programs. So these are really amazing institutions we have at the high school level and in universities where young people in recovery support each other while going through education like any other student. And one of the things that most impressed us about the research was their average grades are better than the average at the same schools. It's amazing. So, that's one of those things that just really gives me hope, that they can manage, support each other, and still have the time to be excellent students.
That's great. I know, Donna, you serve on the board at Young People in Recovery, and I've been really impressed with the work that they've done. Justin Luke Riley and his team have really done a great job of really building that youth movement. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So Young People in Recovery is a national organization that has built chapters across the country to help support people, especially young people in recovery, around education, employment, community involvement, and advocacy. So really giving young people a sense of purpose and helping them in their early recovery. Also, as part of that, the Association for Recovery Schools, not only with high schools, but also with collegiate recovery programs that are out there supporting young people that are in an environment maybe that may endanger their recovery. They have this opportunity where they can be involved in these programs or in these safe environments to help support them so they can be successful.
That's awesome. Tony?
I also want to say, we still have, there's a lot of great things happening, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And that when we talk about young people, we still have to engage their families as well, right? And that also so in Georgia, we have a certified peer specialist youth program, and some of the challenges are that some of these young individuals, because of their challenges, they may have not received their high school diplomas yet. So it's an opportunity for us to work with Voc Rehab to help these individuals to get your GED so that they can, pursue this career path if they want to. So it's an opportunity to collaborate with all the organizations within our community to get to the solution.
That's great. I was really inspired to hear Tony's story earlier and to talk about you just started a new position working for the state of Georgia.
Yeah, so I get the opportunity. I am the director for the Office of Recovery Transformation for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability. That does not fit in a business card.
But it proves that recovery is possible for everyone.
That's right. And I was homeless, and I went to prison, and so recovery should be the expectation, and that's why I'm here today. This great opportunity to talk about that recovery is possible for everyone.